It's weird to think that something that is so much a part of your daily life can now be relegated to the archives. The Winnipeg Tribune, a lot of you, of course, remember that newspaper. It was an institution here in Winnipeg. Russ Gourluck joins us now, and he has taken the photos from the newspaper, from the archives, and made this amazing book, The Legacies of the Winnipeg Tribune. Russ, first of all, thank you for putting this together, because as somebody who's not from Winnipeg or Manitoba, I feel like I have learned so much about the province here. The history here is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the legacies of the Trib is because the archives are here at the U of M, there's tons, literally tons of information, and something like 250,000 photos that show different snippets of life in Winnipeg and in Manitoba, particularly during the 60s and 70s, but some of them going way back to the 1930s and 40s.
Well, I love, first of all, the sense of history that you're learning. Some of it's fun, like reading about the liquor stores and seeing the photos of how you used to have to go in and there would just be one bottle on a shelf. And those pictures like that, and pictures from the polio epidemic and previous floods, really can help give us a sense of what Manitoba's been through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we found, you know, as I was going through the photos and finding ones that seemed particularly interesting, that they kind of lent themselves into thematic groupings, and certainly the polio epidemic is one of them.
And when I think of the themes in here as well, I think rock concerts, and there's a lot of people watching right now who grew up in the era of the Stones and the big concerts, and there's a great picture of Mick Jagger in there, and I love the pictures of the screaming, crying girls for the Monkees. Like, that's hilarious.
And I like the fact that these young teenage Winnipeggers that wanted to get autographs from stars like Mick Jagger, there was hardly any security. Mm-hmm. They just walked up to them and asked for an autograph, and they were also well dressed.
Well, yeah, it shows such a different time. When I look at, like, even the police officers in their buffalo coats, and I love that picture of the police officer with the bobby hat, yeah. And it was too big to get into a modern car.
They actually wore those until the 1950s. A lot of people don't know that Winnipeg police wore those bobby helmets.
It's interesting, too, to look at what hasn't changed. Cruise nights. There's pictures of gangs in there. Like, people think gangs is a modern problem. There's pictures of gangs from the 50s and cruise nights and hippie love-ins and things that we think history is so far away, but when you look at these photos, you realize Winnipeg has changed, but the people are still the same. That's right.
That's right. And I mean, for a lot of people, things that happened in the 60s and 70s are still very much mm-hmm. within living memory.
And a lot of the award-winning photos, that photo of the woman who had been evicted from her home is a very powerful photo, and I love the fact that you've got snippets from the photographers in there explaining how they took the photo, what it meant to them. That's a great insight.
For most of the photos, I deliberately wrote very, very short captions. Mm-hmm. I tried not to over-explain. I felt that they really told their own stories. The Lena Birch photo, the lady that was whose family was evicted from their home, that one I think needed some background because it's such a classic, famous photo.
Mm-hmm. And I love all the photos of the kids as well, the photographers who would just go out and capture everyday life in Winnipeg, the kids playing on the merry-go-rounds and kids at the community clubs. That's going to mean a lot to people who buy this book, to be able to look through it and see their childhood on the pages of this book.
I would imagine there's a lot of middle-aged people in Winnipeg who are going to forget until they see this book that at one point in time their picture was in the Tribune when they were little kids, and here it is again.
Well, I bet you people watching right now, you're flipping through some of the photos we're showing you, are going to, oh my God, that's me. I totally forgot that I was in that. And I love the history of the Tribune as well. For someone, you know, I've worked in news for a long time, and seeing those photos of the men in their suits and ties and their hats, and when the era of the computer comes in, I mean, to see these modern day computers at the time is really interesting as well.
That's right. Yeah, it's some of the scenes are like right out of movies, the way you visualize the way newspapers were in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. What was your favorite? Are you able to have a favorite photo? I mean, there were so many, such a wide variety that maybe a favorite from a couple different eras or topics?
I think just in terms of overall favorite, that picture of Frank Chalmers of the eviction from the home. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, there are so many others. I like the ones of the rock concerts and the hippie era that sort of take people back in time. Some of the street scenes, some of the traffic scenes, just seeing the way Winnipeg streets used to be.
I love that photo of the Great West Life building, and there's a beer store right in front of it. People are going to be remembering things that they've forgotten they remember.
And why was there a beer store? Because there was a brewery there. Before the Great West Life building was built, it was Winnipeg owned, the name escapes me, but it was a brewery owned by a Winnipeg family. And they were bought out by Labatt's, and then when Great West Life built their building there, a beer store was left as kind of a reminder.
Well, speaking of beer, another one of my favorite photos, because it's just it's such a different era, is the men's club. It was kind of like a strip bar era, and the girls in the bathtubs. I mean, that's a great photo as well.
And the male stripper, too.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I saw that one. I'll have to flip back and look at that. What did it mean for you to put this together?
It meant, well, it was a reminder of the Tribune. I was a Tribune reader. It really raised my awareness through photographs of what Winnipeg and Manitoba used to be like. Another favorite of mine, by the way, are the Main Street Manitoba shots showing main streets in Manitoba towns back, in most cases, in the 1940s and 50s. It was kind of a visual reminder of what Winnipeg and Manitoba were all about.
And watching it be built up as well, because there's a lot of really great photos of the construction sites. So buildings that we take for granted now, being up on a crane and looking down and seeing the Winnipeg that we know now come to life.
Or the Forks before the Forks was there, or the MTC under construction, or the Convention Center under construction.
And personalities as well, because there's the radio and TV stations, Adrienne Clarkson, Sylvia Kuzik, all these people that have, are such famous names to us now, and to see where they started as well is very cool.
That's right, yeah. There were a limited number of photos of TV personalities, but I wanted to include some of them.
And I just want to point out, our viewers will recognize your names in your books, because these are huge sellers, very popular in Winnipeg and Manitoba, store like no other Eaton. So I mean, we've talked to you about these books before, and the history of Winnipeg's Portage Avenue. And Russ, it's almost like you are single-handedly allowing people a glimpse into the Winnipeg that they remember, and allowing people like myself and other people who didn't live through it to get a new love for Winnipeg. So that kind of seems like a bit of your mission.
Each topic seems to suggest the others. The Tribune photos I found, I kind of discovered them when I was working on the book about downtown Portage Avenue. Now I'm working on one about the North End, history of Winnipeg's North End.
That's going to be wonderful. So we'll talk to you about that when that one comes out as well. But again, thank you for putting, I mean, all the photos are here in the archives, but it's not accessible to everyone, and to have it in a book form is a great gift to Winnipeg. So thanks, Russ.
Thank you.
Shaw TV is giving away a copy of Picturing Manitoba, Legacies of the Winnipeg Tribune. For your chance to win, give us a call, 480-3500, or email us, shawtvwinnipeg@shaw.ca, and the code word is Tribune.